3. 4 seas and 1,000 mountains all bow to submit. From ninefold darkness 10 species names are removed. Now we were speaking of the handsome Monkey King's triumphant return to his home country. After slaying the monstrous King of Havoc and wresting from him his huge scimitar, he practiced daily with the little monkeys the art of war, teaching them how to sharpen bamboos for making spears, file wood for making swords, arrange flags and banners, go on patrol, advance or retreat, and pitch camp. For a long time he played thus with them. Suddenly he grew quiet and sat down, thinking out loud to himself. The game we are playing here may turn out to be something quite serious. Suppose we disturb the rulers of humans or of fowls and beasts, and they become offended. Suppose they say that these military exercises of ours are subversive and raise an army to destroy us. How can we meet them with our bamboo spears and wooden swords? We must have sharp swords and fine halberds. But what can be done at this moment? When the monkeys heard this, they were all alarmed. The great king's observation is very sound. They said, "But where can we obtain these things?" As they were speaking, 4 older monkeys came forward, 2 female monkeys with red buttocks and 2 bareback gibbons. Coming to the front, they said, "Great king, to be furnished with sharp-edged weapons is a very simple matter." "How is it simple?" asked Wukong. The 4 monkeys replied, "East of our mountain, across 200 miles of water, is the boundary of the Aolai country. In that country there is a king who has numberless men and soldiers in his city, and there are bound to be all kinds of metalworks there. If the great king goes there, he can either buy weapons or have them made. Then you can teach us how to use them for the protection of our mountain, and this will be the stratagem for assuring ourselves of perpetuity." When Wukong heard this, he was filled with delight. "Play here, all of you," he said. "Let me make a trip, dear Monkey King." He quickly performed his cloud somersault and crossed the 200 miles of water in no time. On the other side, he did indeed discover a city with broad streets and huge marketplaces, countless houses and numerous arches. Under the clear sky and bright sun, people were coming and going constantly. Wukong thought to himself, "There must be ready-made weapons around here? But going down there to buy a few pieces from them is not as good a bargain as acquiring them by magic." He therefore made the magic sign and recited a spell. Facing the ground on the southwest, he took a deep breath and then blew it out. At once it became a mighty wind, hurtling pebbles and rocks through the air. It was truly terrifying. Thick clouds in vast formation moved o'er the world. Black fog and dusky vapor darkened the earth. Waves churned in seas and rivers, affrighting fishes and crabs. Boughs broke in mountain forests, wolves and tigers taking flight. Traders and merchants were gone from stores and shops. No single man was seen at sundry marts and malls. The king retreated to his chamber from the royal court. Officials, martial and civil, returned to their homes. This wind toppled Buddha's throne of 1,000 years, and shook to its foundations the 5 Phoenix Tower. The wind arose and separated the king from his subjects in the Aolai country. Throughout the various boulevards and marketplaces, every family bolted the doors and windows and no one dared go outside. Wukong then lowered the direction of his cloud and rushed straight through the imperial gate. He found his way to the armory, knocked open the doors, and saw that there were countless weapons inside. Scimitars, spears, swords, halberds, battle-axes, scythes, whips, rakes, drumsticks, drums, bows, arrows, forks, and lances, every kind was available. Highly pleased, Wukong said to himself, "How many pieces can I possibly carry by myself? I'd better use the magic of body division to transport them." Dear Monkey King. He plucked a handful of hairs, chewed them to pieces in his mouth, and spat them out. Reciting the spell, he cried, "Change." They changed into thousands of little monkeys, who snatched and grabbed the weapons. Those that were stronger took 6 or 7 pieces, the weaker ones 2 or 3 pieces, and together they emptied out the armory. Wukong then mounted the cloud and performed the magic of displacement by calling up a great wind, which carried all the little monkeys back to their home. We tell you now about the various monkeys, both great and small, who were playing outside the cave of the Flower Fruit Mountain. They suddenly heard the sound of wind and saw in midair a huge horde of monkeys approaching, the sight of which made them all flee in terror and hide. In a moment, Wukong lowered his cloud and, shaking himself, collected the pieces of hair back onto his body. All the weapons were piled in front of the mountain. "Little ones," he shouted, "come and receive your weapons." The monkeys looked and saw Wukong standing alone on level ground. They came running to kowtow and asked what had happened. Wukong then recounted to them how he had made use of the mighty wind to transport the weapons. After expressing their gratitude, the monkeys all went to grab at the scimitars and snatch at the swords, to wield the axes and scramble for spears, to stretch the bows and mount the arrows. Shouting and screaming, they played all day long. The following day, they marched in formation as usual. Assembling the monkeys, Wukong found that there were 47,000 of them. This assembly greatly impressed all the wild beasts of the mountain: wolves, insects, tigers, leopards, mouse deer, fallow deer, river deer, foxes, wild cats, badgers, lions, elephants, apes, bears, antelopes, boars, muskoxen, chamois, green one-horned buffaloes, wild hares, and giant mastiffs. Led by the various demon kings of no fewer than 72 caves, they all came to pay homage to the Monkey King. Henceforth they brought annual tributes and answered the roll call made every season. Some of them joined in the maneuvers. Others supplied provisions in accordance with their rank. In an orderly fashion, they made the entire Flower Fruit Mountain as strong as an iron bucket or a city of metal. The various demon kings also presented metal drums, colored banners, and helmets. The hurly-burly of marching and drilling went on day after day. While the handsome Monkey King was enjoying all this, he suddenly said to the multitude, "You all have become adept with the bow and arrow and proficient in the use of weapons. But this scimitar of mine is truly cumbersome, not at all to my liking. What can I do?" The 4 elder monkeys came forward and memorialized. "The great king is a divine sage, and therefore it is not fit for him to use an earthly weapon. We do not know, however, whether the great king is able to take a journey through water. Since I have known the way," said Wukong, "I have the ability of 72 transformations. The cloud somersault has unlimited power. I am familiar with the magic of body concealment and the magic of displacement. I can find my way to heaven, or I can enter the earth. I can walk past the sun and the moon without casting a shadow, and I can penetrate stone and metal without hindrance. Water cannot drown me, nor fire burn me. Is there any place I can't go to? It's a good thing that the great king possesses such powers," said the 4 monkeys. "For the water below this sheet iron bridge of ours flows directly into the Dragon Palace of the Eastern Ocean. If you are willing to go down there, great king, you will find the old Dragon King, from whom you may request some kind of weapon. Won't that be to your liking?" Hearing this, Wukong said with delight, "Let me make the trip, dear Monkey King." He jumped to the bridgehead and employed the magic of water restriction. Making the magic sign with his fingers, he leapt into the waves, which parted for him, and he followed the waterway straight to the bottom of the Eastern Ocean. As he was walking, he suddenly ran into a Yak-Aan patrol, who stopped him with the question, "What divine sage is this who comes pushing through the water? Speak plainly so that I can announce your arrival." Wukong said, "I am the heaven-born sage Sun Wukong of the Flower Fruit Mountain, a near neighbor of your old Dragon King. How is it that you don't recognize me?" When the Yak-A heard this, he hurried back to the Water Crystal Palace to report. "Great King," he said, "there is outside a heaven-born sage of the Flower Fruit Mountain named Sun Wukong. He claims that he is a near neighbor of yours, and he is about to arrive at the palace." Aoguang, the Dragon King of the Eastern Ocean, arose immediately. Accompanied by dragon sons and grandsons, shrimp soldiers, and crab generals, he came out for the reception. "Hi, Immortal," he said. "Please come in." They went into the palace for proper introduction, and after offering Wukong the honored seat and tea, the king asked, "When did the High Immortal become accomplished in the way, and what kind of divine magic did he receive?" Wukong said, "Since the time of my birth, I have left the family to practice self-cultivation. I have now acquired a birthless and deathless body. Recently, I have been teaching my children how to protect our mountain cave, but unfortunately, I am without an appropriate weapon. I have heard that my noble neighbor, who has long enjoyed living in this green jade palace and its shell portals, must have many divine weapons to spare. I came specifically to ask for one of them." When the Dragon King heard this, he could hardly refuse. So he ordered a perch commander to bring out a long-handled scimitar and presented it to his visitor. "Old monkey doesn't know how to use a scimitar," said Wukong. "I beg you to give me something else." The Dragon King then commanded a whiting lieutenant together with an eel porter to carry out a 9-pronged fork.